my friend Andrew up there. Say hi, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
He's going to be here during class in case you guys need anything. If your pencil breaks or you have a question about something, just raise your hand. He's also up there to show you your exit. If you need to leave a little bit early, door on the far right that he's pushing open right now, that one's the easiest one to open up. Now take a look at your pencils. You'll notice that we have no erasers on the end. This is what we call a rough sketching class. With a rough sketch, you want to start really light with your lines, and you build up the sketch until you start seeing the character come through, and then when you start seeing that, seeing things you like about your sketch, you go back and make them dark. So this sketch is going to look messy, so don't make this perfectly clean like the xerography style we were talking about earlier. So with Ka, we're going to start off with a rectangle. I would say about the size of like a credit card is usually a good size. You'll make them really big that way. If you want to go a little bit smaller, you could do like a standard like eraser if you wanted to. I'm gonna place this over towards like the top left of my page because he is a python. We're gonna be drawing in a little bit of his body and neck. So you just want to have a lot of rectangles. Notice that I'm not trying to stick to just one. I've got a lot going on there. We're going to create a little guideline here near the back of that rectangle. So you should have this side be shorter than the side on your left. If you need to, you can always extend the left side a little bit more. We're doing what's called general to specific, where we're building out the biggest shapes of our snake first before we get to the finer details. So I'm going to add a line that comes down, and we're going to start to create in his neck and his body here. And I'm adding in this like stretched out letter J. I might not have given him enough room for his belly. He's a big snake. He's a really big snake. Pythons can get pretty long. I believe they can get up to 60, 70 feet if they just keep eating. Yeah, they're enormous. And he, I believe, is based off of a Burmese python. The front of his neck here, you just want to follow that same curve that you're going through here. So it should look like you have an elephant's trunk holding up a shoebox. And there's your snake. You're dead. Let's add in his eye here next. So I'm going to go right where that guy line is and add in this stretched out letter U shape. Just underneath the top of the box there. And his eye sticks upwards here. You want to think of this as like an almond shape or a teardrop shape. You can think of it as also like an egg, because that's what pythons mostly eat. But we're going to start rounding things out. His snout, his like the back side of him, his eyebrow ridge, all that stuff's really boxy right now. So we want to round this out. I'm going to add in a candy cane from the top of his eye to that back corner here. And I'm going to take that back corner and add in another candy cane. So it's like you've sketched in a number 3. And then you want to start to blend that in to his body shape there. I'm going to pause on adding new things, and we're going to start to clean up our sketch. If you don't feel like you're ready to clean it up, if you want to see where the sketch is going, you can definitely wait. That's up to you. But I want to just show you what it looks like here. So I'm going back over his eye and the back part of him and making things stand out really nice and dark. So this is where you want to pick out the lines that you like the best, and these dark lines do the work of erasing for you. So if you're like, oh no, I need an eraser, you do not. You just need to put down darker lines. So this line here, your brain tells you to ignore it. That's a really weird thing about people, or about how our brains kind of function here. So it's telling you ignore it and just look at the thing that's darkest on your page. And I've got a lot of lines going on here. I'm going to pick out the ones that I feel are going to fit my drawing the best, because like I felt that went too low. So I'm going to bring these up here. Now, The Jungle Book, this was one of the last films that Walt Disney worked on before he unfortunately passes away in 1966. So this was, well, he greenlit the Aristocats. That was technically the last thing that he approved for sure. But we want, well, this was during an era. Does anyone remember what, like, there's been this thing going around on the internet where they'll show like one Disney movie animation and then another Disney movie, and it's the exact same thing but with different characters. It's called recycled animation. So they did this a lot during the 60s and 70s, mostly during the 70s because the movies were pulled from the 60s, where they will take like animation that's already existing and just copy a different character over it. I'm gonna give him his snout here next. So I'm gonna round out this corner. I'm gonna bring it down pretty low here near the bottom of my box. But we're gonna give him a sneaky, snaky smile. So his smile, when you start to work your way up, you wanna give it a little bit of a slither. So Kaa, his voice actor, was a man named Sterling Holloway. Sterling Holloway was one of Walt Disney's favorite actors that he used in a lot of his animations. He played not only Kaa the snake, but he played the stork from Dumbo. He also played a little teddy bear who lives in the 100-acre woods. Yeah, so he was also the voice of Winnie the Pooh. And Sterling Holloway, like, he was very well known for that Winnie the Pooh voice, of course. I added in his lower lip, which just comes out to this little point here. And then we can go back in and start to lock in the rest of his snake body. It's like the neck and it's like, is a snake just a really long neck? I don't know. But I want to give you guys a little bit of time here to catch up. We're more than halfway done with our sketch of Kaa here, of course. The Jungle Book was supposed to be quite a long film. They had a lot of scenes that they wanted to add into it. And one of the things Walt Disney really wanted for this film was to balance the comedy with the drama. So there is like, if you've seen the Jungle Book, it goes like, oh, we have to run away from Shere Khan, it's very dark, it's scary. But then all of a sudden you run into a bunch of elephants who are just marching through, and they're very silly, honestly. I love the elephants in that. Yeah. And then Mowgli's like running away again, and he's scared. And this was all a lot of balance that Walt Disney felt that his storytelling needed to keep people interested in this film. And one of the things I loved about it was, does anyone remember the vultures?
Yeah.
Yeah, he comes across these vultures who try to help him out. But these vultures, they seemed a little familiar, didn't they? It kind of gives you a little Yellow Submarine vibe.
Yes.
Yeah, they are actually based off of the Beatles. But Walt Disney, funnily enough, like, the Beatles were like very popular during this time. But funnily enough, Walt Disney was like, this craze is not gonna go anywhere. We won't have the Beatles actually come in. Because they actually wrote a song for them in the Beatles style, but they actually cut it out for the barbershop quartet that they do instead. And some people say that the Beatles didn't want to do it because they were like, animations? No. But then they were like, Yellow Submarine. Now, we don't have Kaa's eye in here next. To really wake him up, you want to draw in a very tiny pupil here. Villains tend to have very small pupils. It keeps them from looking very sympathetic. You know, bigger pupils gives you more empathy. Smaller ones make you a little bit more scary looking. If you want to give him his little hypno eyes, you can do that too. He also has a little eye bag. Something about villains, they're like, they don't sleep.
That's why
Oh, you're in your villain era. I get it.
Okay.
Me too. I don't sleep much. We're gonna give him a little nostril here. Little thing about snakes is that their noses actually can detect heat. So it's like what is those heat glasses or like heat detecting like cameras?
Yeah.
That's actually what their noses do. And he's got this top part of his snout. I'm gonna add in this stretched out letter U shape. So that part of his snout is like a darker green color here. And of course, what's a snake without his tongue? So you want to add in a little slithery tongue in here for him, just with a letter V here at the end. Now the last thing that we're going to give Ka is going to be that separation that we started here is also going to continue down his back. So I'm going to round out where that cheek is, where his smile kind of pushing it up. And I'm just going to follow that same curve of his body. But I'm going to bring it closer towards the bottom of his belly. He's actually kind of turning in our sketch here. Around this time in Disney animation too, Walt Disney was very keen on making sure that his animators were heavily educated about things like animals, anatomy. They had life drawing classes, not only with people, but with animals too. So oftentimes they would go to the LA Zoo, or they would actually have wildlife experts bring in creatures into the studios. This was started in the days of Bambi. So these snakes, something that they noted that these snakes have is they have these big spot patterns on them here. You can give them any kind of pattern that you feel that you want, but I'm going to make these look just like rounded rectangles here. Walt Disney is actually the founder of the school CalArts. So that's where a lot of the animators tend to go because he started that basically education program with his animators, and they decided to just make it a full-on school. Once you have those spots in place on your snake going down his back, that's everything that you need for this slithery little minor villain, honestly, in the Jungle Book, because Shere Khan is way scarier than Ka the snake. Honestly, Ka's pretty funny in my opinion. He's a very funny villain. But go back, darken up any lines that might have gotten faded or smudged. You can add in some shading to those spots that he has. He tends to hang out in the trees a lot, trying to get Mowgli to eat, so he can eat the man cub. He's trying to get the snack before Shere Khan does. Shere Khan was animated by one of my favorite animators. He was animated by Milt Kahl, who is very famous for animating characters talking while they move their head. That was something that no other animator could do. It was his way of showing off. But you can, once you know that, you can see which characters he animates. Like Tigger, he animated Shere Khan. He animated, who's the butler from the Aristocats?
Edgar.
Edgar, yes, Edgar. He animated him as well. But the last and final step that you need for your sketch is find a good spot somewhere next to him and sign your name. All right. Now that we're finishing up, did you guys have fun?
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. I want to see how your sketches turned out. So on the count of 3, even if it's still a work in progress, go ahead and turn your boards around, all right? 1, 2, 3, let's see. Ka the snake. Very nice job over here. These are looking great. Nice big snakes back there.
All right, everybody, let's see how I drew the snake. I would say the drawing was better this time. This is Finding This on that. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks, everybody.